بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد Alhamdulillah, we've reached the final pages of the book Ad-Da' wa Dawa' by Ibn rahimahullah ta'ala, and he's continuing on the topic of love, and he talks about the proper love and the improper love, al-muhabbat al-mahmuda wal-muhabbatu al-madmuma. So he says that ولما كانت المحبة جنسا تحته أنواع متفاوتة في القدر والوصف. So there's several types of loves as we already discussed. And كان أغلب ما يذكر فيها في حق الله تعالى ما يختص به ويليق به من أنواعها وما لا تصلح إلا له وحده مثل العبادة والإنابة ونحو ذلك. And there's certain acts of love that are only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is with worship and repentance and turning to Him alone. And this love is reserved only for Allah. And the opposite of that, the love that's blameworthy or unapproved, is loving something other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's only deserving to Allah. And that's where shirk comes in. And he says the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and worshipping Allah is basically what the Quran is all about. ومدار القرآن على الأمر بتلك المحبة ولوازمها والنهي عن المحبة الأخرى ولوازمها. So all of the Quran basically is a summary of loving Allah and that which He loves, and staying away from that which other loves to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he says he sent the prophets with this message, and he told many different of the stories in the Quran, all with this message, and he's given us examples and metaphors, all delivering this message. Basically, the greatest love is the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, worshipping Him alone, and disassociating any partner to Him. And the Prophet ﷺ said in authentic hadith, وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِي لَا يُؤْمِنُ أَحَدُكُمْ حَتَّى أَكُونَ أَحَبَّ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ وَلَدِهِ وَوَالِدِهِ وَالنَّاسِ أَجْمَعِينَ. None of you truly believes until I become more beloved to him than his child, his father, and all of people. In another narration, the Prophet ﷺ said, or Umar radiallahu anhu came to the Prophet ﷺ and said to him, O Messenger of Allah, I love you more than everything else except myself. And Umar the Prophet ﷺ said to Umar, you have not achieved Iman, you have not completed your Iman, you have not completed the faith. And then Omar said, okay, I love you, or I love Islam even more than myself. And then the Prophet said, now you have become a believer. So from the requirements of Iman is to love Allah and the Messenger more than you'd even love yourself. And he's saying that if this is the love of the Prophet ﷺ, imagine the love of Allah. How much more will you love the creator of the Prophet ﷺ, the one who created you? And he says, ومحبة الرب سبحانه تختص عن محبة غيره في قدرها ووصفها وإفرادها وسبحانه بها. That the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is unique in its amount and in its type and in its singleness. Like the love you have for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala you cannot have for anything else. That's the greatest forms of love, right? And it's unique for His sake alone. Then he says that love, al-hub aslu kulli al-haraka. Nothing in the heavens and the earth move except through love, because a creature or a logical being always is motivated by love or fear. It wants to get close to that thing that it loves, and it wants to stay away from that which it fears. So all movement in the earth and in the heavens is motivated by love. And he's saying that the proper love, the proper motivation is having love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he quotes the ayah, يُسَبِّحُ لَهُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. Like everything in the heavens and the earth gives praise and glory to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, indicating that all the movement is to love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he says the foundation of all love is loving Allah alone. فإذا عرف ذلك فكل حي له إرادة ومحبة وعمل بحسبه وكل متحرك فأصل الحركة المحبة والإرادة. So when a person knows that the foundation of all basically love is love for Allah alone, then he is motivated to worship Him and Him alone. And he's saying that no movement occurs except through desire and love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he said the singleness of love for him alone and worship is what causes stability in the universe. Because if there was more than two gods, there would be corruption in the universe. وَلَوْ كَانَ فِيهِمَا آلِيَةٌ إِلَّا اللَّهِ لَفَسَدَتَا. If there was like another God that a person loved as equal to God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, there would be corruption in the universe. وأصل فساد العالم إنما هو من اختلاف الملوك والخلفاء ولهذا لم يطمع أعداء الإسلام فيه من في زمن الأزمنة إلا في زمن تعدد الملوك المسلمين واختلافهم. He said, and that's why you can find that all the corruption in the earth usually occurs between the differences of two strong parties, two khilafah, two kings, right? And they said the enemies of Islam were never able to conquer the Muslims until the Muslims started having fights with each other. When the different leaders started fighting with each other, then the enemies of Islam were able to overtake them. So he's saying that فالصلاح السماوات والأرض واستقامتها وانتظام أمر المخلوقات على أتم نظام من أظهر الأدلة على أنه لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. So the stability of the heavens and the earth is one of the greatest of evidences that there's only one Lord, only one God, only one worthy of worship. Because if there was more than one, there would be chaos, there would be fighting, and there would be corruption. And then he says, from the signs or the effects of love is all the things that come about from it. So when a person has love, the feelings of the sweetness of love come about, the desire, the longing, the wanting to be close to that which you love, and the hurting or the grief or the sadness or being away from the one that you love. Right? This is natural with any type of love. So the more love you have of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more close you want to get to Him. Right? And you feel bad and despair when you are away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he's saying that the effect of true love makes you want to get closer to the one that you love. وَمَعْلُومٌ أَنَ الْحَيَّ الْعَاقِلْ لَا يَخْتَارُ مُحَبَّةً مَا يَضُرُّهُ وَيَشْقِيهِ. And the logical person will never pick a love that would hurt him or harm him. Right? The only one that does this is a person who does not have aql, the illogical person. He chooses a love that is harmful to him, the love for other than the sake of Allah, the love of shirk or the love of haram or the love of that that exceeds the bounds of proper love. Right? And this causes him misery at the end of the day. Then the Imam says that al-mahabba aslu kulli din. So it's the foundation of all movement, it's the foundation of establishing the religion. وكما أن المحبة والإرادة أصل كل الفعل كما تقدم فهي أصل كل الدين سواء أكان حقا أو باطلا. Love is the foundation of all types of religion, whether it be proper religion or improper religion. فإن الدين هو من الأعمال الباطنة والظاهرة والمحبة والإرادة أصل ذلك كله. Deen, religion, are the actions of the inward spiritual actions and the outward physical actions. And love is the foundation for both of those. Like you cannot do an act of worship except it's motivated by the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if you're a proper Muslim. Right? And the mushrikeen, they used to worship because of the love of the idols. People that have improper loves of the creation, like they might have a boyfriend, girlfriend type thing, and they're motivated by that love, they move according to that love brings them misery because it's not proper love, right? But it has some type of effect upon them, and that's their deen. The more you love something, that becomes your deen. And he says the ayat وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ, to the Prophet ﷺ, you are upon a great character. A lot of scholars of tafsir, they say that it means إِنَّكَ عَلَى دِين عَظِيمٍ, you are upon a great religion. And also the Aisha, she used to say that كَانَ خُلُقُهُ الْقُرْآنِ, his character was the Quran. Because the thing he loved, the Prophet ﷺ loved the most and he was closest to, was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So his khuluq and his religion and his deen was that based upon that love. That's why Allah said, إِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. وَدِينُ الْعَبْدِ لِلَّهِ بِهِ إِنَّمَا يُقْبَلُ إِذَا كَانَ عَنْ مَحَبَّةِ وَرِضَائِهِ كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ذاق طعم الإيمان من رضي بالله ربا وإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا. That the true religion of a person is only accepted when you have based upon the love and pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As the Prophet said in an authentic hadith, you have tasted the taste of iman or faith when you have had been pleased with Allah as your Lord Islam as your religion, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as your prophet. And when you truly realize like the importance of the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He is in control of all the affairs, and your deen, the way you worship is based upon that love, then you understand how He is in control of all the affairs. In the authentic hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, ما أصاب عبدا قط هما ولا حزنا فقال اللهم إني عبدك وابن عبدك وابن أمتك ناصيتي بيدك ماض فيه حكمك عدل فيه قضاءك أسألك اللهم بكل اسم هو لك سميت به نفسك أو أنزلته في كتابك أو علمته أحد من خلقك أو استأثرت به في العلم الغيب عندك أن تجعل القرآن العظيم ربيع قلوبنا ونور صدورنا وجلاء أحزاننا وذهاب همومنا وغمنا إلا أذهب الله همه وغمه أبدله مكانه فرحا. So he's saying, when you truly realize like the perfection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's in control of all affairs, and your deen and your worship is based upon worshipping Him alone, this hadith comes about that no thing comes upon a servant from grief or fear, and he says this dua, except that Allah will take it away from him. When he says, "O my Lord, I am your slave, the child of your slave, my forelock is in your hand, your ruling has come upon me, you are just in your ruling, I ask you by all the names that you have named yourself, or that you have revealed in your book, or that you have kept in secret with you, that you may make the Quran open my heart, and a light to my chest, and a relief of my grief, and taking away from my concerns." So when you make this dua, Allah takes away your humum. So he's basically, the point is saying that how the one who bases his deen upon the hub, the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he knows that Allah is the only one that can take away his concerns, and He's the one who is in control of the universe. So he puts his affairs to Allah. Then the Imam, he goes and he talks about the examples of the love that exceeds its bounds, and the love that's properly for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the story of Yusuf alayhi salam. And he mentions 13 facts about the situation that Yusuf faced, that any one of them alone would have been sufficient to tempt a person, right, to go into the haram. So he says the first one, ما ركب الله سبحانه في طبع الرجل أو الرجال من ميله إلى الامرأة أو النساء. That first thing is that all men have a loving or a desire for women in general. It's part of the human nature of the men, right? That's the first thing. He had to fight against that temptation. The second, and he's saying that also it's like the thirsty person for water, or the hungry person for food. And he's saying sometimes the love of the women for the men can be even stronger than their thirst, or the love for like food for a hungry person, or the thirst for a thirsty person of water, right? That's how strong it is inside the men. The second one, he said, Yusuf alayhi salam kana shaban. He was a young man, and when you're a young person, the desires are even stronger. Thirdly, he said he was single, he was not married. Fourth, he was in a strange country. You know, if a person's in a strange country, not amongst those that he knows, it's easier for him or her to fall into sin, because they think that like people won't see them, right? Fifth, the woman was a person of position and great beauty, right? And that alone also is a sufficient means of temptation for any, man. Sixth, إنها غير ممتنع ولا آبية. She was not like preventive to Yusuf alayhi salam. She was basically giving herself to him, Number 7, أنها طلبت وأرادت وراودت وبذلت الجهد له. That she is like actually wanted him, and she was struggling to get him. That's like another means of temptation. All these temptations that are facing Yusuf alayhi salam. The 8th one, أنها في دارها وتحت سلطانها وقهرها. Yusuf was in her house, under her supervision and under her like power, basically, because she was one of the most powerful women in that country, the wife of the Pharaoh, right? So he was under her power. 9th, أنه لا يخشى أن تنام عليه هي ولا أحد من جهتها. He didn't have to fear for her exposing the secret, or anybody from her party to expose their secret, because she was the one that initiated it, and she is the one that has power. The 10th factor, أنه كان في ظاهر مملوكا لها في الدار. In the apparent means he was like a slave, or a servant for her. So there's no like suspicion of him being in the house to begin with. Number 11, أنها استعانت عليه بأئمة المكر والاحتيال. She took, even after she tried to get all the other women to help her plot against him so that he will fulfill her desires, right? Number 12, أنها توعدته بالسجن والصغار. She promised him to be imprisoned and disgraced if he refused her request. And 13, أن الزوج لم يظهر من الغيرة ما يفرق به بينها. That the husband of her, he didn't have no jealousy to begin with, because the first time he caught them, he didn't say anything to her, like he wasn't upset. Basically, he just said, Yusuf a'rad an hada, like Yusuf turned away from this, and he told her, astaghfirli dhanbiki, like seek forgiveness for your mistake. But a true man would like have ghira, and if a true man has ghira or jealousy for his wife or his woman, he's gonna be like, basically he would kill for her. He'd be so upset and mad. So he's saying in this case the husband didn't even have any ghira. So all these 13 factors, like that were able for Yusuf to be easy to fall into the haram, but the one factor of his true love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prevented him and outweighed all these other factors and saved him from the fitan. وفي هذه القصة من العبرة والفوائد والحكم ما يزيد على 1000 فائدة لعلنا إن وفقنا الله أن نفردها في مصنف مستقلا. He's saying that from this story are over 1,000 benefits and wisdoms that maybe one day, inshallah, we can put into a book to understand these benefits from this surah, from the story of Yusuf alayhi salam. Then he goes to talk about the proper medicine for the improper love. دواء العشق. ودواء العشق هذا أو داء القتال أن يعرف أن ما ابتلى به من هذا الداء المضاد للتوحيد إنما هو من جهله وغفلة قلبه عن الله تعالى. He's saying that the cure for this type of improper love is to realize that it is in opposition to tawheed, and it occurs from the person because of his ignorance or the heedlessness of his heart, when his heart is away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فعليه أن يعرف توحيد ربه وسنته أولا. So it's befitting for that person to know the oneness of his Lord and the sunnahs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. ثم يأتي من العبادات الظاهرة والباطنة بما يشغل قلبه عن دوام الفكرة فيه. Then he should come with the type of worship, the inward worship of the heart and the outward worship of like fasting and praying, so that his heart and his mind and his soul can be occupied with the worship of Allah, and he starts remembering the improper love. ويكثر اللجاء والتضرع إلى الله سبحانه وتعالى في صرف ذلك عنه. And he increases in asking Allah to take away this fitna from him, to take away this improper love from him. He keeps turning to Allah and making dua to Allah to help him get over this improper love. وليس له داء أنفع من الإخلاص لله وهو الداء الذي ذكره الله في كتابه حيث قال كذلك نصف عنه السوء والفحشاء إنه من عبادنا المخلصين. And there's no greater medicine for this sickness than to have ikhlas for the sake of Allah. True ikhlas and sincerity for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making worship sincerely for his sake, is what saved Yusuf, because he said, this is how we turned away the evil and the corruption from him, because he was from our servants al-mukhlasin. إِنَّهُ مِنْ عِبَادِنَا الْمُخْلَصِينَ. So Yusuf was saved from that fitna because of his ikhlas for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then the Imam goes and talks about some of the harmful effects of having the improper love. ومن المعلوم أنه ليس في عشق السور مصلحة دينية ولا دنيوية بل مفسدته الدينية والدنيوية أضعاف ما يقدر فيه من المصلحة. He's saying, and it's known that this improper love there is no benefit in it in his deen or his dunya. In actuality, there is an evil in it for his deen and his dunya, much greater than any type of benefit that can ever come from it. And so he mentions some of them. First of all, الاشتغال بحب المخلوق وذكره عن حب الرب تعالى وذكره. That the person, he remembers the creation and loves the creation more than he remembers Allah and loves Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the improper love will keep a person's mind occupied with the creation as opposed to being occupied with the Creator. And it causes him to love the creation more than to love the Creator. ثاني عذاب قلبه به فإن من أحب شيء غير الله أو لغير الله عذب به. The second thing, the harm from the improper love, is that he'll be punished with it. As it said in the statements we mentioned before, if a person loves something for other than the sake of Allah, or an improper love, Allah will punish him with that, right? And you find so many people, because they have love of wealth or love of dunya or love of a woman or love of a man, for example, and they put that love above the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they end up getting punished with that love. They end up losing their wealth, they end up losing their position, they end up losing that woman or that man, right? And they feel regret, and they feel misery, and they feel grief, and they feel, sadness, all because that love was based upon improper love, not based upon the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Third, قلبه أسير في قبضة غيره. His heart or her heart becomes a prisoner to somebody else. Like if you let your love have an improper love of somebody other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then that love becomes, you become like a slave to that person or to that thing, right? The fourth thing, أنه يشتغل به عن مصالح دينه ودنياه فليس شيء أضيع لمصالح الدين والدنيا من عشق السور. That this type of love will keep him occupied on that which benefits him in his deen and his dunya, right? Loving like the creation with the improper love more than you should have is, he's saying, one of the greatest ways to lose the benefits of the deen and the dunya, right? People, they start getting attached to something so much so that becomes their God almost, and they start losing the benefits of their deen and even of their dunya because of that thing. And I've seen, people, for example, that became so obsessed with, I'll say, wealth, that they're collecting wealth and working so hard for the wealth and the money, and they're not even benefiting from it. Like they're misers with their money. They don't spend even upon themselves. They don't even spend like air conditioning in the summertime because they want to waste money. So they're making thousands, they're working hard, making millions and all that, but it's a punishment for them, because they've taken that as their God other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The fifth harm is that all the harm or problems from the deen and the akhirah come or stem from having improper love. He's saying the improper love, directing that love to something other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is like the fire being directed to dry timber. You see when the fire hits dry timber how fast it burns up and blows up. The same thing with a person directing their love to something other than Allah for the wrong sake. It becomes a catastrophe for them. Also, he says it corrupts the mind. Number 6, it corrupts the mind. This is because the person's thoughts become so obsessed with that thing that they love that their mind becomes occupied with that. They don't think about other than that. So their thoughts are always occupied by that person that they love or that thing that they love. And it even prevents them from doing that's what it benefits for them. And then he says, ربما, the 7th part, أنه ربما أفسد حواس أو بعضها إما إفسادا معنويا أو صوريا. It also corrupts the senses, he says, either physically or metaphorically. Physically, القلب إذا فسد العين والأذن واللسان فيرى القبيح حسنا منه ومن معشوقه كما في المسند مرفوعا حبك شيء يعمى ويصم. He's saying metaphorically it corrupts the heart, right? And if the heart is corrupted, the eyesight and the hearing becomes corrupted. As he says, there's a hadith attributed to the Prophet ﷺ that your love of something can blind you or make you deaf, whereas you see something that's ugly as beautiful, or you listen to something that's bad as something that's good, because improper love blinds the person, right? He doesn't see the faults, or she doesn't see the faults in the thing that they're loving anymore because they're blinded. They see only like good from that person, even that person is the most evil of people, right? Because their heart has become corrupted with the love of other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he's saying, as for the فساد الحواس الظاهر فإنه يمرض البدن وينهكه وربما أدى إلى تفلته. He said, as for the corruption of the body, sometimes the person can be so lovesick that he actually becomes physically sick with grief or depression, or actually even like getting sick. You know, sometimes grief and depression can cause physical sicknesses. And he mentions many stories from the past of people that lost their minds for love, or lost their health for love, you know, or became so sick they couldn't even eat anymore because of love, improper love. And then he goes and he mentions so many like stories and poems and histories of the past of those people falling into improper loves. And then he mentions certain arguments of others saying that, well, love is a good thing, you know, love can bring happiness, love can do this, love can do that. And then he spends the last part of the book basically answering that, saying that it depends on what you mean by love. Yes, love can be a good thing, but it has to be proper love, right? And inshallah we'll finish right now, like breaking down the love. He says, أن الكلام في هذا الباب لا بد فيه من التميز بين الواقع والجائز والنافع والضار ولا يحكم عليه بالذم والإنكار ولا بالمدح والقبول من حيث الجملة. He says, to understand this question or this concept, we have to distinguish between the beneficial love and the harmful love, right? And you can't just put like a blank statement for all types of love, because loves are different. And he says, أعلم أن أنفع المحبة على إطلاق وأوجبها وأعلاها وأجلها محبة من جلبت القلوب على محبته وفترة الخليقة على تأليه وبها قامت الأرض والسماوات وعليه فترة المخلوقات. The most beneficial, the best love, without a doubt, is the one that your love, that your heart, that your soul, that your creation has been built upon. And that is the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no greater love than that. وهي سر الشهادة, and this is the secret of the shahada, loving for the sake of Allah. وهو الذي تأله القلوب بالمحبة والإجلال والتعظيم. And this is the love that makes the hearts get close to Allah and make Him great in your heart, in your mind, and your soul. And the perfect love is the one where you combine this type of love of Allah with humbleness and worship, right? All those together equal the greatest love. And he said, وَالشِّرْكُ فِي هَذِهِ الْعُبُودِيَّةِ مِنْ أَظْلَمِ الظُّلْمِ. And the worst form of injustice is having shirk in this type of love, loving other than the sake of Allah, that which is only deserving for Allah, worshipping other than Allah, that which is only deserving to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فإن القلوب مفطرة محبوبة على محبة من أنعم عليه وأحسن إليه. And he's saying, like, basically, why should you not love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The hearts in general are made to love that which brings it good. You know, if somebody does good for you all the time, or gives you something, or gives gifts to you, you have a natural love for that person or that thing, right? So what more, or who more gives to us than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Right? Nobody. So it's natural for us to love Allah. وَمَا بِكُم مِّن نِعْمَةٍ فَمِنَ اللَّهِ. There's not a favor or benefit or blessing from anything you have in this earth except as a gift from Allah. Right? So He's, for that reason alone, befitting of our love. And he's saying that love has two main reasons for it. The first one is al-jamal, and the second one is al-jalal. You love something because of it, the beauty that's in it, or for the honor that's in it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has both of these. And he says, the Imam says that there's nothing in the heavens and the earth that has a complete perfectness in their jamal and their jalal except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So therefore you should have the most love for Him. And the basis of wilayah, or being close to Allah and the believers, is based upon love. Like the Prophet ﷺ is ordered to say in Ali Imran, قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي يُحْبِبْكُمُ اللَّهُ وَيَغْفِرْ لَكُمْ ذُنُوبَكُمْ. Say, if you love Allah, then follow me. Allah will love you and forgive your sins. right? يا أيها الذين آمنوا من يرتد منكم عن دينه فسوف يأتي الله بقوم يحبهم ويحبونه أذلة على المؤمنين وعزة على الكافرين. O you who believe, whoever turns away from their faith, Allah will come with a people other than you that He loves and they love Him. Right? So wilaya, the basis of having closeness to Allah and the believers, is based upon love of Allah. And if you're missing this love, you're missing the wilaya. And we said before, like the Prophet ﷺ said, لا يؤمن عبد حتى يكون هو أحب إليه من ولده ووالده والناس أجمعين. That a servant doesn't believe until I become more beloved to him than his child, his parents, and all of people. This is for the Prophet ﷺ. So the Imam is saying, if this is the love for the Prophet, imagine the love for the one who sent the Prophet, the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how much greater it is. Right? The one who created all the prophets, the one who created the heavens and the earth, the one who gave you every single thing that you have, the one that gives you and keeps giving it to you even though you sin against Him. Right? How many, if anybody, if you've done wrong to a human being, does He keep giving you, maybe the parents, that's why their right is so high. But in general, when a person does so much wrong to another person, that person cuts the other one off. Yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He keeps giving to us even though we sin against Him. He does good to us even though we don't follow His commands. This is why we should love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also the Imam says, in general, there's not a creature that does something for you except that he's trying to get something out of you, in general, some type of benefit. Even the closest of people, they have the benefit of like getting love back from you, for example, or some type of masalih, he's saying. Except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He doesn't need anything from us. He loves for us good for our own sake. Also, from the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that when you do something for His sake, He multiplies it and gives you a reward far greater than anyone else can ever give to you. If you spend $1 in His cause, He'll return 700 to uncountable amount. Right? That's another reason why we should love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for His generosity and His honor and His kindness and love for us. Everything He's legislated for us to do is for our own benefit. He doesn't need anything from us. And He rewards us for it. So it's not only like you're doing this good to help yourself, but you do it, I'm going to give you even more in Jannah. And he said, وَأَيْضًا فَهُوَ سُبْحَانَهُ خَلَقَكَ لِنَفْسِهِ وَخَلَقَ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ لَكَ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ فمن أولى منه استفراغ الوسع في محبته وبذل الجهد في مرضاته. He's saying that also Allah, He created you for Himself. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I did not create man and jinn, or humankind and jinn, except that they should worship me. Right? So He created us for Himself, and He created everything in the heavens and the earth for us. So who is it more benefiting to love and to create and to worship? Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He created us for Him, and He created everything else for us. So why should we go after that which is created for us in the first place, that we own? That's a gift from Allah to us, and forget the one that created us in the first place. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, huwa haqqu min dhukr wa haqqu min shukr wa haqqu min ubid wa haqqu min humid. He is the one who is most deserving for our remembrance, the most deserving for our thanks, the most deserving for our worship, and the most deserving for our praise. Also, the Imam says that from the completeness of pleasure is with the completeness of the love that you have of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or of anything, right? The stronger the pleasure, the more the love is. That's the general concept for human beings. The more something gives you pleasure or benefit, the more you have love for that. Right? So the greatest, he says, وَهَذَا أَمْرٌ عَظِيمٌ يَجِبْ عَلَى اللَّبِيبِ الاعتناء به وهو أن كمال اللذة والفرح والسرور والنعيم القلوب وابتهاج الروح تابع لأمرين. So this is an important matter. He says that any logical person should understand and take heed of, that the perfection of pleasure and happiness and the bounties of the heart and the widening of the soul come back to two affairs. كمال المحبوب في نفسه وجماله, the completeness or the perfectness of the thing that you love in the first place, right? And the second one is كمال محبته, the way you love that thing. So for a mu'min, a believer, the most perfect thing you can love is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? He is all perfect, all beautiful, all honorable, all great, all wise, all loving, our creator, right? So He has all the perfect characteristics and attributes that would make you want to love Him. And in terms of our love, the more that you take away love for other than Allah and focus your love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the greater the pleasure will be in the dunya and the akhirah. So he says, the pleasure of the akhirah that you will get outweighs any type of pleasure you can ever get in this dunya, right? The smallest place in the akhirah for the last person to get out of the hellfire is 10 times greater than the earth, right? That's the smallest place for a person in Jannah. And he says, he quotes the ayah, بَلْ تُؤْثِرُونَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرُ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى. Yet many people, they prefer the life of this world, and then the next life is everlasting and better for you, right? When the people of the magicians of the Fir'aun, when they believed in Musa alayhi salam and accepted Tawheed and worshipped Allah alone, and the Pharaoh said, if you don't disbelieve or go back to your religion, I'll crucify you and cut off your hands and your feet from both sides and torture you to death, basically. They said, فَقْلِ مَا أَنْتَ قَادٍ إِنَّ آمَنَّ بِرَبِّنَا لِيَغْفِرْ لَنَا خَطَايَانَا وَمَا أَكْرَهْتَنَا عَلَيْهِ مِنَ السِّحْرِ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى. Like, basically, do what you want to do. We seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we turn to Him, and He is better and everlasting. Allah is better and everlasting. And the person in Yasin, Surah Yasin, when he says to his people, يَا قَوْمِ اتَّبِعُونِ أَهْدِكُمْ سَبِيلَ الرَّشَادِ يَا قَوْمِ إِنَّمَا هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا مَتَاعٌ وَإِنَّ آخِرَهَ هِيَ دَارُ الْقَرَارِ. Oh my people, follow me, I'll show you the right way. Verily, the life of this world is just a brief sojourn, and the next life is the real life, right? So all these ayahs showing us how the earth and this worldly life is nothing compared to the pleasures of the next life. So why would you sacrifice temporary pleasure for the permanent pleasure? And the greatest of pleasures, like when you go into Jannah and you have the gardens of delight and rivers flowing underneath and homes and your beautiful spouses and everything your heart's delights you can ever imagine, you get that in Jannah. But the seeing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the greatest pleasure of Jannah. The Prophet ﷺ said, فَوَاللَّهِ مَا أَعْطَاهُمْ شَيْئًا أَحَبَّ إِلَيْهِمْ مِنْ نَظْرَ إِلَيْهِ. There is nothing more beloved to the people of Jannah than looking upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِنَّهُ إِذَا تَجَلَّى لَهُمْ وَرَآهُ نَسُوا مَا هُمْ فِيهِ مِنَ النَّعِيمِ. Another narration, when Allah comes to them and they get to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to see your Lord, your Creator, the one who gave you life, finally get to see Him, you will forget all the na'im of Jannah, because the angels will give and give and give, and you have so much pleasures and everything you can ever ask for in Jannah. And then they will be asked, do you want anything more? And they will say, what more can we want? We have everything, all our hearts delight. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show Himself to them, and they will forget all that na'im, because the ladda or the pleasure of looking at Allah outweighs every other pleasure. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ used to make the dua, وَأَسْأَلُكَ اللَّذَّةُ النَّظْرِ إِلَى وَجْهِكَ الْكَرِيمِ وَالشَّوْقَ إِلَى لِقَائِكَ. I ask you to look, the pleasure of looking at your most beautiful, honorable face, and a desire to meet you, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, on the Day of Judgment, or in the next life, there are some narrations that it's like if the people almost forgot the Quran, right? When they hear Allah reciting the Quran to them, they hear Allah reciting His words to them on the Day of Judgment. It's obviously the most beautiful recitation. Imagine getting the words of Allah from Allah Himself, And those are the greatest of pleasures in the Akhirah. That anything in the dunya is not worth sacrificing for. To sacrifice whatever you need to sacrifice to get that pleasure is worth it. So basically, to summarize, the three main types of love is loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the greatest of all loves, right? And then loving those things that are help you to increase in that love, that which Allah loves, like loving the Prophet ﷺ and any type of good worship and stuff like that. And then there's the impermissible type of love that takes you away from Allah, like associating partners, loving something in worship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he says that the one that there's praiseworthy love is, like we said, love of the Prophet ﷺ, love of the Quran. And some of the Salaf used to say, إذا أردت أن تعلم ما عندك وعند غيرك من محبة الله فانظر محبة القرآن من قلبك. He's saying that if you want, they used to say, the Salaf used to say, if you want to see how much you or others love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, see how much the love of the Quran is in their hearts. Right? That's an indication of how much you love Allah. And a narration by Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu, he said, لو طهرت قلوبنا لما شبعت من كلام الله. That if our hearts were truly pure, we would never be full of the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like reading the Quran would never bore us, we'd never be tired of it, if your hearts are pure. So loving the Prophet, loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, loving Allah, loving the Prophet, loving the words of Allah, loving any good deeds, all those are from the praiseworthy types of love. And then he talks about the love of your family and your wives. And this is like a natural type of love. He mentions many narration, the ayat وَمِنْ آيَاتِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُم مَّوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. That we have made from His signs, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He created you from a single soul, and from that soul its mate, so that you may live unto her in peace, and He put between you love and mercy. So this is also a good type of love that you have for your wives, right? And it's a natural love. Like human beings, they need some type of companionship. So if you make your intention that you're doing this for the sake of Allah, you get even more blessings, right? And the Prophet ﷺ said, حُبِّبَ إِلَيْ مِن دُنْيَاكُمْ الطِّيبُ وَالنِّسَاءُ وَجُعَلَتْ قُرَّةُ عَيْنٍ فِي الصَّلَاةِ. That from your dunya, the women and the scents have been made beloved to me, and the apple of my eye is the salat. So having a love, of the opposite sex is a natural thing for human beings. However, Allah gave us a halal way to temper that love, which is marriage. In some narrations it says, like, when two people have passionate love for each other, the best way to cure that is through marriage. Because the improper love will lead to haram things and sin and punishment, as opposed to leading to blessings and gifts from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of the main problems with youth today is that they're not encouraged enough to fulfill this desire in a halal way. Many parents, unfortunately, will prefer their children to, for example, finish their degrees, get jobs, do such and such before they get married, even if they have haram relationships, right? Like we said, this natural love or feeling is natural in people. So either you can do it properly or improperly. And a Muslim should always encourage to do it properly. Like, I'm not going to say personally, but I can just say I know of kids or teenagers or young adults that are suffering, because they're not able to fulfill their desires in a proper manner. And they're falling into a lot of haram stuff that could be avoided if they were given the chance to do it in a halal manner. So it's highly recommended that we try to facilitate this in the community and amongst the Muslims in general, to protect their honor and their safety and their chastity. So to summarize, the greatest medicine for the improper love is to make your heart occupied with the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to ask Him to change your heart to His way, and to be sincere in your dua to Him, and to keep your mind occupied with His remembrance, and to keep your tongue busy with His remembrance and reading His book, and to remember that the pleasure of the dunya is temporary, but what can lead to a punishment that's far more severe in the akhirah. However, the suffering, if you have some type of hardship in doing ibadah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it can lead to permanent pleasure and happiness in the akhirah. So while we're here temporarily, like we said before, the whole life is going to feel like it's day or part of a day. Struggle a little bit, and you will have the greatest pleasure forever, right? So, to finish up, inshallah, there was a story of a princess, and she was known to be like one of the most beautiful women in her town or her city, and she used to give to the poor a lot, and she used to like do extra good deeds, to go to the masjid and clean the masjid. So when she would go to the masjid, it would be cleared out of all the men, obviously, and she would perfume it and do nice things to the mosque. So anyway, one day a man was taking a nap, and it was closed for her, and she came in there to do the cleaning, and he woke up and he saw her, and he fell in deep, like, passionate love for this woman, and so much so that he became sick, because he knows he was like a regular person and she was a princess. There's no way he could marry her. So she fell literally physically sick, and he was like on getting worse and worse, going away. His body was fading, So his mother, she was so fearful for him. She finally figured out why this was the case. So she somehow got through to the princess and said, my son has fell in love with you. I fear he will die, like, if he can't marry you. And she said, okay, let him gift me 40 nights of Qiyam al-Layl. Let him pray the Qiyam al-Layl for 40 nights, and then I will accept the marriage proposal. So she went and told her son this, and he got almost better, like, instantly. And he started, getting healthy, and he started praying Qiyam al-Layl. So the first, like, 6 or 7 nights he was praying, obviously I'm going to marry this woman. He was so happy and stuff like that. And then after the 40 nights, the mother came, okay, you've fulfilled your vow, now let's go and marry the woman. And he said, like, no, I don't want to marry her anymore. Because she's like, what happened? And he said, the love I have for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala far outweighs the love for this woman. So the worship for the true worship for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala overtook his heart. And he realized the love of the dunya was nothing for him. So she went back and told the story, to the woman. And the woman knew this, because she said, no one will truly, sincerely pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the night prayer for 40 days except that he will have a love of Allah, And so this is like one of the cures to, take you away from improper loves, is to let your heart be attached to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the point you don't need anything except through him. And he will give you all that you need and more. It's narrated even in the current Bible, that's still today in Deuteronomy, in the Old Testament, and in many chapters in the New Testament, like in Mark and Luke and Matthew and others. Jesus repeats the command from the Old Testament. So he was asked, when he said, like, teacher, what is the greatest commandments? The Pharisees came to the Prophet Isa alayhi salam, according to this narration, and said, what is the greatest commandments? He said, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest commandment. This is the first and greatest commandment. So even in the previous books, that's even still available to today, this commandment of loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with all your heart is the main and most important things. It's the asas, the foundation of Tawheed, and the foundation of our deen. And then the Imam, he quotes a narration by Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, who says that لا يدخل الجنة حتى يصبر لله. No one will enter into paradise until he is patient for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ويعفي لله, and he's chaste for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he covers himself for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he loves for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the person who achieves these things and controls his desires and puts the love of Allah above his desires will fall under the ayah, وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. Whoever fears the standing before his Lord, and he prevents his soul from the lower desires, he will have Jannah, paradise, as his abode. And also in Surah Al-Rahman, وَلِمَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ جَنَّتَانِ. Whoever fears standing before their Lord will have 2 paradises, 2 gardens. And then the Imam says, فَنَسْأَلَ اللَّهَ الْعَظِيمِ رَبَّ الْعَرْشِ الْكَرِيمِ أَنْ يَجْعَلْنَا مِمَّنْ أَثَرَ حُبَّهُ عَلَى هَوَى وَابْتِغَى بِذَلِكَ قُرْبُهُ وَرِضَاهُ. He says that we ask Allah the greatest, the Lord of the great throne, and that he makes us put our love of him above the love of our desires, and that we seek closest to him and his pleasure above all other pleasures. And that's how the Imam ends the book. Jazakumullah khairan for all that attended off and on or throughout. Jazakumullah khair. May Allah accept from us and allow us to benefit from these words and wisdom from this great Imam, and continue inshallah in seeking knowledge and growing in closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you have any questions or comments, you have a couple minutes, and then sisters brought some food, jazakumullah khairan, and tea after salat. If you want to come back and eat a snack, welcome.